And so we are back with another worst to best list. It's been a while since I've done one of these and we've had quite a few changes since then. Mainly we have the addition of the health on kill cards on a lot of other heroes now. And also we had a couple new heroes added, so this one was a harder list to make than the last one. Of course, this list won't completely reflect your own choices, but I've made it based on both viewers' feedback and my own personal thoughts. Last time I made a list like this, a lot of people in the comments said I should make two separate lists for GA and HVV, that being Galactic Assault and Heroes versus Villains, so this is what I'm doing here. This list will be all the heroes and villains ranked for Galactic Assault, and then if you guys enjoy this video, I'll make another one for HVV. With that said, let's get into the Galactic Assault list. And coming in at last place, yep, you know it, we have Phasma. Now, I personally think Phasma can be quite good at times. I have had some enjoyable games with her, but overall, she is quite situational, standing around a turret for like protection, and that gun, her gun is just not rewarding to use. It's an interesting mechanic with prolonged accurate fire, but often just feels like tickling the enemy. Headshots of course make her feel better, but I just think how much more effective you can be with other blaster heroes just hitting body shots. Also, I like to note the fact that she didn't get a health on kill card. Instead, DICE opted to give her a health on ability card, and the ability here is the worst one in game. Staff Strikes, I'm talking about you. An ability I still feel needs reworking, so basically, because of that, the blaster and her abilities in general, Phasma is the worst here. Next up, and this one was much harder to decide, we have Chewbacca. Another hero that got the health on ability card. Really, I think he did need a health on kill card in GA, but he got a health on ability card and it's the slammed ability, which really just doesn't work. He's very easy to hit, he's got terrible regen, and when the Furious Bowcaster isn't active, you need to charge your shots and he just feels way less effective. If he got health back when he was using the Furious Bowcaster ability, he wouldn't feel so bad, or maybe just in general when he just kills an enemy, that would be great, but with him getting health back when he charge slams people, it just doesn't really work, it isn't viable. So Chewie, he can be great in certain situations, but mostly he just isn't in GA. Moving on, I've got Kylo Ren, and now he does have a health on kill card, which makes him a lot better, I'll say that at the start. His frenzy ability, I still don't like it. Yes, it does work in certain situations, but I've noticed that like rolling is way more powerful in game now, so a lot of the time people can just roll away from this one. It doesn't kind of lock them in position like it did in the start of the game, and his pull ability doesn't do any decent damage even with the star card, so I think that one does need an increase in damage there. Also, his freeze is great for teamwork, but useless for getting kills himself, and he doesn't get any points given to him when he freezes someone and then your teammate kills them. And it's part of what's required with Kylo to be a good team player. He's a really good team play hero, but he kind of needs to be rewarded in that way. So I think he took the longest for me to level up. It's not saying that Kylo can't be good, just think he's less effective than other lightsaber villains. Moving on to another villain, I now have Boba Fett, and his blaster, I have to say, feels much better these days, and he has a health on kill card too, so he's got much more survivability as well. I really do enjoy using him a lot more with that health on kill card. I guess the worst thing about Boba is that everything still seems to blast him out of the air, and he's a pretty easy kill after that. He's got poor regen as standard, so that's why he needed that health on kill card. But maybe a little bit better regen if you're going to keep all these explosive things in the game that can blast him out of the air. Otherwise, you just need some resistance to certain explosive weapons. There's a lot of maps in the game where I just think Boba isn't viable right now, so that's why he's quite low on this list. One of those heroes that is pretty much a counter to Boba Fett is Finn, and he's above Boba here. Lower on other lists that I've seen, but in my opinion he can be quite a good hero. Deadeye is lethal, and when combined with 3 star cards that improve the ability, I think he's a killing machine. I also quite enjoy using his blaster as standard, even though I just wish it had a little more damage, and maybe a bit more of a harder hitting sound. Worst thing about him currently I would say is that he's got a health on ability card, and the ability kind of sucks. Undercover team just isn't a reliable way to get health back without putting yourself at risk of dying most of the time. So I would have liked to seen him get a health on kill card like some of the other heroes, but instead they opted for this ability once again. Most of the heroes on this list that got a health back on ability card, I don't enjoy playing quite as much, so maybe DICE can make a note of that. Now for a new entry, and here we have Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you're upset at this placement on this list, I can expect that. I know Obi-Wan is a favourite character for many, but I just can't put him any higher on this list. His abilities do work, but they aren't that great as of right now. I'm expecting some changes in the near future. His defensive rush I think is the worst gap closer in game, and Jedi really do rely on their gap closers. The mind trick is too short as standard, and the push angle is just too narrow. It has great range, but just doesn't work in a lot of situations. Maybe they could work on the push like a cone, broadening outward as you charge it in future. I would also like to see his movement sped up during the defensive rush. I think that would make a big difference to him. But overall, I just don't rate Kenobi that high. And I talked to a lot of people before I made this list, and they didn't either. So he is quite far down, but until he gets some changes, I think he's going to kind of stay around this position. So sadly, Obi-Wan does sit below Luke Skywalker on this list. That simply is because Luke is better. He's better with the one-hit push ability, one-hit kill on most classes these days. Abilities are also working more often now, I've noticed that, like the push and the repulse ability. They're hitting targets when they should. He's very fast, he can move around the map quickly, he regens HP quickly, and he can rip through large groups of enemies if you combine the abilities with the right star cards. I find myself using Luke a lot more these days, and that's because he is quite reliable now. So that's why he's got this position. Him though, on this list we have his sister Leia, and that's because she has that great blaster and her damage output with the E11 ability. Her shield is ideal for capturing objectives, protecting friendly troopers, but the only a down point about her would be that her flash grenade is kind of useless. It's not as good as the officers, we said that for quite a while. Then also she got a nerf to her secondary fire, and I think it was done in the incorrect way, so it's just less effective at all ranges now. She has great health regen, and she's always had that health on kill card, which allows her to stay alive for a long time, even in heated fights. So I always enjoy using Leia, and I have to say that she's one of my favourite heroes in this game. She's probably not one of the most effective, that's why she's not at the top of this list, but she definitely is one of my personal favourites to use. Then above her, we do have a favourite for many, a Sith who leaves no sectors clear. Of course, this is Darth Maul. A great villain to play, one of my faves from the beginning of this game in the beta. He's fast and he can devastate groups of enemies, but his problems lie in his abilities. I would say that he can't block, so he isn't quite as good at defense as other villains or heroes on this list. I know a lot of people have said this to me, that they wish he could block, and basically we know this is because he is pure offense. But when abilities don't work, and there are quite a few occasions when they don't work, you sometimes wish he could just block instead. The chokehold often bugs out, not affecting all enemies in an area, so they end up shooting you in the face and you die. And then we have the saber throw, claimed to be fixed by DICE multiple times, but I would say 8 out of 10 times this ability does not work. He is a great hero, great health regen, and he even has a health on kill card now, but his abilities need some work before he can be put any higher on this list. So how about this one? I've actually put General Grievous above Maul on this list. I actually love to play this newly added villain. He is an absolute powerhouse with his saber strikes and has 2 amazing gap closing abilities and great movement overall. After the last update, I truly believe all his abilities are really useful and work really well. Not perfect, there are still some bugs with him, but most of the time Grievous is just a wrecking force in Galactic Assault. I mean, his saber strikes single hit most troopers, and when he gets behind enemies, they're done in no time, even if they're a hero with a lot of health. He is simply crazy and he can just mow through the enemy team. So when I get Grievous in Galactic Assault, I always feel like there's a streak coming. Better than Grievous though, Vader is up next, and he, put simply I guess in one word in this game, is the tank. Arguably the most iconic character in Star Wars, he has been great from the beginning in Battlefront 2. We've had a few problems with the choke for a while, but now, at least from my time using him, he's just a reliable source of domination. The choke itself can be quite situational, but the other two abilities are great and help him consistently be a threat even at longer ranges. He currently has the best saber throw in this game, and unlike Maul's, it always deals the damage. It's consistently dealing the damage, and it normally one-shots troopers, so I really enjoy using Vader's throw to rack up the kills. Combine that with his focus rage and you have an unstoppable force in many ways, so Vader is definitely rated pretty highly on this list. Moving on to a few blaster heroes now, the first of which is Han Solo. Now Han has gone up quite a few places since the last list. You might remember that I rated him quite low. I think I might have even put him in the last spot. And that's because he had no survivability before. It's simple as that. Now with a health card, Han is definitely one of the best for getting streaks and winning games. A big game changer in line with that health card is that if you lose a good deal of HP, one good detonite charge will get it all back for you. You know how good he is at getting multi-kills with his detonite charge. This makes him so much better, and combining that with his powerful blaster, he can really rack up kills when he's played well. So I think Han deserves this higher spot this time. Above him we have his buddy Lando, and he also now has a health on kill card. This is once again a big deal with this hero, upping survivability. One good sharp shot, that amazing one shot aimbot multi-kill ability, and Lando can regain any HP lost. He has much more survivability now, and of course he has that unique disruptor, allowing you to both detect and shock enemies when detonated. This gives him great awareness and the ability to stop any villain in their tracks. He really is a game winner on any map where you can multi-shot targets, and you can really lock down an objective. His gun may be a little bit weak at ranges, but can really dish out the damage up close. So Lando just misses out on the top 5 here. Moving in now to the top 5. At 5th place, I have IDEN Versio. And she is here because she can be viable at all ranges. I think since the last vid, she has been improved in multiple ways. Her post cannon is quick and reliable now, although I still would like different levels of zoom on that thing. Her TL50 blaster is still probably the best blaster in the game, with its huge damage output and that secondary fire. And if you're good at using her shock and shield at the right time, she can survive for a very long time. Of course, you do have to use her shock to get your health back if you're using that card. Pretty much any map you can use IDEN on. I would say her survivability is not as good as some of the other blaster heroes because the way you have to rely on the droid. But still, when you get good at it, you can really dominate with IDEN, and I do enjoy using her. I mean, her post cannon, you can knock starfighters out the sky with it, and you can single shot most targets. And then when you get in close, you can rely on that secondary fire. Even when enemies have gone around corners you can't quite reach, as maybe it's not safe for you to go in, you can rely on the secondary fire to do the damage. And up close, she just decimates with the TL50's standard blaster fire. So I think she deserves the 5th place on this list. Above her though, we have Jedi Master Yoda here in the 4th spot, the bane of my existence. If you have ever faced Yoda on an objective, you'll know how annoying he can be. He buffs friendlies, making them insanely hard to kill, and on top of that, it can be crazy hard to shoot him. If you watch my streams, you will know that we call it cheesing Yoda, because a lot of the time, if a team chooses Yoda and gets on the objective, it is simply game over. All his abilities are extremely useful for both teamwork and domination, especially that unleash ability which wrecks groups of enemies and now can even gain him back lost HP. See, unlike a lot of heroes and villains that got that health back on ability card, Yoda's is actually useful because it's an ability that you can use consistently to get kills with. So Yoda here, being annoyingly good, gets the 4th spot. Next up we have that sequel Jedi that everybody loves, and this is Rey. And Rey in this game is just crazy. She gets wall hacks, increased damage and unlimited stamina, all from one ability. And then she has that extreme gap closer called Dash Strike. I like to call her Rey the Rhino. And then if any villain or enemy trooper tries to take her down, her mind trick often leaves them in the reverse situation. For me, and I know a lot of other people, she is the most effective Jedi in this game, so she gets the 3rd spot here. Rey just dominates. So with that, we actually have 2 villains left, and here 2nd place goes to Emperor Palpatine. A unique villain in this game with his lightning, because this is his singular output of damage. All his abilities are incredibly useful, with that chain lightning being possibly the best ability in game. Combine that ability with a star card and not only can he decimate groups of enemies at one time, he can also gain practically all his HP back from doing so. He has, since the beginning, been a crazy good villain to play, and even with the nerfs he's received over the year, he still is one of the best for sure. Anytime there's a Palpatine, you know he's going to be a menace. I think he's a nice and easy villain to play, and you can really rack up the kills with him. So a lot of people do use him in game, and that's why I think he's top of most people's list. He's incredibly effective, so deservingly he gets the 2nd spot here. With that said, that brings us to the number 1 placement, a villain that is nearly always mentioned in everybody's top 5 list. He got 2nd place in my previous top villain video list, but this time I gave him the number 1 spot. Why? Well, I thought about it a bit more. Bossk can dominate on any map and at all ranges. Just look at his star cards and you'll see Bossk can fit exactly the way you want to play and still be insanely good. Go with the gas cards and you'll dominate with Dioxis. Go with the proxy cards and you'll have no problem locking down any objective areas. Or you can go with the Predator Instinct star cards, maximizing the effectiveness of that ability. This makes him insanely good if you play him aggressively. In all, he is just so versatile. His abilities combined with that railway sniper make him an extremely useful villain all the time. Now you can't say that about most of the heroes and villains on this list. Let's also not forget his Trandoshan trait, that regen, which means he can always heal back to full HP, giving him great survivability too. With that all said, it just makes sense here that Bossk takes the number 1 spot on this list. So that's it guys, the complete Galactic Assault heroes and villains ranking list. If you agree or disagree, you're very welcome to leave your own thoughts or your own lists in the comments. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you would like to see another one like this for HVV, then make sure to smash that like button, comment below, and share this video to anyone you think might enjoy it. I do appreciate it. As always, I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.